It's Wednesday, August 24th.
From inside the WTOP newsroom, this is the DMV Download, brought to you by the men and women of Steamfitters Local 602. Get an estimate and learn more at steamfitters-602.org.
Today, a multi-billion-dollar light rail project that was supposed to connect Prince George's and Montgomery counties to the metro this past spring now has new life. WTOP's Lukert tells us the construction on the Purple Line is starting back up and tells us what the issue was.
It was supposed to be finished by March of this year, and now the project will be finished in fall of 2026. So they are over 4 years behind.
And with the majority of the tunnels for the 16-mile light rail dug already, both the construction of the Purple Line and the connectivity it will bring are having an interesting effect on the real estate market. We speak with realtor Ron Sitrin, who says some buyers see this as an opportunity, while others are steering clear.
It's almost like a line in the sand for some of them. They'll see a house come on the market, looks like a beautiful house, but the tracks are running either so close behind it or right behind it, enough that they're like, I think we're just going to pass. We don't even need to see that house.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Cloherty.
And I'm Luke Garrett. So much like Phase 2 of the Silver Line in Virginia, Maryland's east to west Purple Line is saddled with construction delays. The transit line was actually supposed to take riders between Montgomery County and Prince George's County this year, but the project is 4 years behind schedule.
And the chief reasons, labor dispute, rising costs, and supply chain issues. But the construction union and Maryland Transit Solutions signed a new bargaining agreement that will kickstart the idling project, which is actually going to get started here soon. And to tell us about it is WTOP's Luke Lukert, who talked with the union, which is called the Laborers International Union of North America Local 11. Luke, thanks for being here in person. We appreciate it.
Of course.
To start, can we just do a rapid-fire review of the Purple Line? When did this thing get started, and where are we now?
Yeah, so this dates all the way back to 2017 is kind of when they began construction.
Okay.
Which
feels like forever ago.
And it is forever ago. And just to give people a timeline, it was supposed to be finished by March of this year, like 2022. And now the project will be finished in fall of 2026. So they are over 4 years behind schedule. And a lot of that had to do with the previous contractor, kind of right in the middle of the pandemic in 2020, just picked up and walked away from the project.
Just less sites.
We're just like, we're not doing this anymore. And so that left the Maryland Transit Authority trying to find a new contractor to kind of pick up where they left off.
I mean, why'd they do that?
You know, I really do think that it had to deal with the pandemic and just labor costs, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and
things not getting worked out.
Exactly.
The Purple Line is supposed to, and I ideally will, provide east-west transit connections for 16 miles between Metro Rail's green, orange, and red lines. And actually, we are going to put up a map on social media to kind of like illustrate that for you, but technically connecting Prince George's County, Montgomery County, sort of on the top of the Metro map if you look at it. So we've got the basics down, but this isn't part of Metro, right? I mean, this is just a Maryland project. Can you talk about who owns this and how this is moving forward?
So this is a public-private partnership. Like most transportation projects that we're seeing nowadays, it's a public-private partnership, and it is commissioned by the Maryland Transit Authority, but some private groups are actually building the Purple Line. It's not associated with Metro, but it is going to be stopping at numerous Metro stops.
Right.
So kind of connecting it, but it is separate from Metro. I'm sure that there's some sort of agreement, obviously, to kind of connect several different Metro stops, but it's not technically part of Metro. They will not be handling any of the maintenance, anything like that.
So despite its name being the Purple Line, that's not similar to red, orange, all those other lines.
Exactly.
But it will run into those stations and make some sort of easy connections.
Correct.
Okay, and so fast forward to now, we talked about these construction delays, but now there is a new contractor, and the contractor just signed a new bargaining agreement with some union workers. Tell us about this latest development.
So the contractor, Maryland Transit Solutions, that is now part of this partnership, was chosen back late last year, November. They got their budget at the very beginning of this year in January, and they've been in kind of negotiations with the union for construction workers since about February, I'm told, and finally got all hashed out this past last week. And they are really going to ramp up construction after Labor Day is what they tell me. Now, you might have seen some people doing some work around the Purple Line where the Purple Line construction used to be.
Yeah.
But pretty small crews. And that's all really been prep work. Building retaining walls, doing some surveying, checking, making sure the electricity is all good.
Putting ramps in so you can get that heavy construction down in there. Yeah.
But I'm being told that the real construction, the real heavy work, it's probably going to cause some traffic delays, is going to start in earnest after Labor Day.
And the cost of this thing went up too. Initially, I mean, that was a huge deal back in 2017 when this was getting started, or 2016, I think, actually, was how the heck we're going to pay for this thing. And it's gone up in price. Can you talk about that?
So it went up in price from $2 billion.
Billion.
$2 billion. And now it is $3.4 billion. And they cited, what everybody else is citing,
Right.
Supply chain issues, issues with workforce and hiring people because, there's way more jobs, people out there to fill the jobs. And so all of those things compound to make it an even more expensive project than it already is. And again, I want to remind everybody, a project that is 4 years behind schedule. And that hasn't really seen real construction, pending that we actually see construction in September, real construction in about 2 years.
I mean, we were talking about this because, these like giant holes in the ground behind people's houses went in, then it was just nothing. So if you don't pass by this thing or you don't see like the huge, what would you even call them? And they're almost like dirt tunnels through Montgomery County and Prince George's County, you're kind of like, it's out of sight, out of mind because it's been so long. But there's been people who've been living near these things, which honestly are a little bit of a safety hazard, for a couple of years now. So it's interesting that this is finally, it's good. It's finally moving forward.
And an eyesore for nothing in return.
Yeah.
You're looking at a construction zone and you don't even have the benefit of hopping on the Purple Line or having the Purple Line as a real possibility in the next couple of months. It's 4 years away.
Right. Like whenever I drive up Connecticut Avenue to get to 495, there's that huge span that kind of crosses over Connecticut Avenue where the Purple Line will be. So going back to this construction and that bargaining agreement, you talked with someone at the union, Steve Lanning. What was his assessment of this agreement, and was he hopeful that it will really jumpstart this construction process?
Yeah, so he said that the collective bargaining agreement, the contract that they just signed, really has above market wages for construction workers.
When you have a tight construction market, already trying to recruit or retain the best workforce, you need to provide, beyond really more than competitive wages. You need to make the project appealing. I think this agreement certainly has done that. It's offering, the best wages and benefits in this market.
Hopefully that is going to help tremendously with stopping, with not having to deal with any sort of delays due to work shortages, because you do have a contract and you do have construction workers being paid above market.
In other words, putting money in on the front end rather than having to pay for delays and other issues later on.
And he said that around 250 guys from the union were working on it previously, and then when construction stopped in September, October of 2020, they were out of a job that they thought they were going to be working on for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Now they're contracted, and as he said,
we're excited about it. Our members are excited about it. Our members want to get back to work on this project, because a lot of our members live in that area. It's a job close by that provides, close to 4 years of employment on one project, which in construction can feel like forever, which is exciting for them.
So they're really excited about it.
If you go on the Purple Line website, it's just purplelinemd.com. You can see, what the arc of this thing is, where it's going to be, also what it's going to look like. It is a light rail, which I don't know if we've said, but it's not. It's supposed to be a lot quieter. But it actually has a breakdown. The website's pretty decent. It has a breakdown of like Silver Spring, Long Branch, University Boulevard, and where the construction of each of those places are. So if you live around those areas and you want to know specifically like when am I going to see this construction, that's a really good tool for you to use.
Yeah, and they say initially you're going to see a lot of construction kind of at the terminuses of the Purple Line, Bethesda and down by New Carrollton.
Yeah.
And Steve actually told me, I believe, at University Boulevard, you're going to see a lot of construction there initially.
But just looking at this map, it makes a lot of connections. And I, for one, used to have to make that Friendship Heights to Silver Spring Red Line
Go all the way
ride
into the city.
where you go down
yeah.
all the way to the U, and it's an hour ride, but it really could be, on this new line, maybe 20-minute ride. So once completed, big if, big win, but it could make some faster commutes.
Absolutely. I mean, and especially people who travel the Red Line and need to go from, Silver Spring to Bethesda. I mean, that you got to go into the heart of D.C. to go make that. It's definitely going to cut that shorter when it's done again in 4 years.
Right. I just hear a Silver Line extension like over my right shoulder. It's very similar kind of stories here.
But the cynic in me is like, if it's 4 years delayed, what's to say it's not going to be 6 years delayed? But hopefully I'm wrong, people. Hopefully I'm wrong. Luke Lukert, thank you for being here. We appreciate your time and the explanation.
Thank you, guys.
It'll be interesting to see what this does, Luke, for real estate as it's kind of expanding the transit into real estate.
And how homeowners really feel about these gaping holes like around their houses.
Coming up, we're going to talk to a realtor about all that. And he's going to have also some news about where the market stands because things are changing, apparently.
Stick around.
Backed by the experience of its hardworking members, Steamfitters Local 602 is ready to take on your next commercial, heating, cooling, HVAC, or refrigeration project. Steamfitters Local 602 adds value to our community through its partnerships with local contractors and building owners, all while keeping the focus on improving the lives of its members and their families throughout the DMV. For work that's on time and on budget, go to steamfitters-602.org to schedule your next project. That's steamfitters-602.org. Steamfitters Local 602, changing lives.
Thanks for listening to the DMV Download. If you like this show, give us 5 stars and leave us a review on Apple Podcast.
We love hearing from you guys, and your reviews really do help other listeners find this, our area's only in-depth daily local news podcast.
And thank you for making us a part of your day. When a giant train track is running through multiple communities, it's a fair guess that it'll impact real estate in those areas. But how neighbors are reacting to the incoming Purple Line varies. Some see it as an investment opportunity, while others prefer not to buy nearby despite the transit upgrade.
Joining us now is Ron Sitrin, who has been a realtor in this area for decades and now leads the Ron Sitrin team of Long & Foster. Ron, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
So the concept of the Purple Line obviously is not new. This has been going on for years. And in fact, there's been construction on hold for a while as well. But as a reminder to those who are perhaps new to our area or looking to buy in this area, it was a pretty big deal for this thing to go in. It split neighborhoods, it cleared trees, it shuttered some longtime businesses that had to move because of eminent domain. It even took away a section of parkland and a beloved trail. Can you talk about how it's really changed a lot of communities and what buyers are looking for in those communities?
Yes, and I see it almost in 4 distinct groups, at least from the buyer clients that work, and sellers that I've been working with. And let's go way back when we had people who said, wow, this is, they thought this is a great idea, and they wanted to get on the beginning in areas like Riverdale, that stop was going to be. And they thought, I think they wanted to buy then and they knew it was going to be a long time before it actually materialized, but they just thought this could be a great way to sort of be ahead of the curve and buy while the land was effectively cheaper than it would be once the station was up and running. So they're really happy with their decision, and they're thrilled. And then, as you move, from my perspective, at least where I work, is you move further west, you have neighborhoods where, really nice neighborhoods that had this trail running behind it, and they loved the trail. It was beautiful. It was a high, you could commute to downtown Bethesda very easily from there. And so now the trail is under construction. You have no access to it. And they're not so sure how much it's going to really save them in terms of commuting. It may not change their commute very much just because of where they live already, but access to a trail that was part of their community was taken away. However, once the train is up and running, they are supposed to replace that trail. So it's really a temporary thing. But at the moment, what was there is lost, and it's, they would rather have it back. Right?
Kind of a bummer. Luke used to use that trail too, you were saying.
Yeah, I used to bike that trail all the time. You just kind of meander through those neighborhoods and pop out in Bethesda. And then that trail actually continues all the way down and connects to the Capitol Crescent Trail, which takes you all the way to Georgetown. So I used to do that all the time with my friends. But moving to, kind of the benefits, are there any benefits that you've seen from the real estate perspective?
Yeah. So let's take this. So they'll go just a little bit further west, right? And then you have a community of homes that aren't going to really be impacted by any noise issues that come from the train at all. They're just far enough away from it.
Yeah.
Yet they're going to have really nice access to the stop. And what's interesting, I was meeting with some sellers, And they were thinking, like, where should they move in terms of stay in place things, in terms of transportation.
Mm-hmm.
And when we really sort of, as you hit that point in your life where maybe you're not able to drive a car anymore, you can have the Purple Line here because it's not there today. But when you start thinking it is going to be there. And that was really like a great revelation to them to think maybe they just ended up in such a great location without knowing it already,
Right.
because that does make a difference for people.
I mean, we just heard how construction is expected to continue for another 4 years before the Purple Line is complete. When you have buyers who are looking nearby and maybe they still do want to have to drive or whatever their transit situation may be, how do you counsel them on what to expect? Because it has to be hard. You don't know what the construction noise is going to be right now. Also, the train isn't going clearly, so it's not like Kensington or maybe if you're near a VRE train where you can kind of just sit and wait and say, that's too loud for me, or that's okay.
Yeah.
I could sleep through that. How do you deal with that from a selling perspective?
Yeah. Where I found, especially with the buyer clients that we're working with, where I found that they're it's almost like a line in the sand for some of them. They'll see a house come on the market, looks like a beautiful house, but the tracks are running either so close behind it or right behind it enough that they're like, I think we're just going to pass. We don't even need to see that house. So I am seeing that impact buyer behavior. Now, of course, all these homes sell. So it's not like it's impacting the homes from selling, but perhaps maybe there's fewer buyers that were entering the home to actually look at the house when it did come on the market.
And, over the last few years, the real estate market has been crazy. I mean, it's definitely been a seller's market.
Yes.
Is that still, the case as we're talking about the Purple Line kind of affecting real estate? Where are we as we kind of zoom out from the Purple Line, just look more broadly into the buying and selling of homes here?
So if you owned a home in the Washington region, starting in April of 2020, you saw a tremendous amount of appreciation. That was a very good time to be a homeowner, very difficult time to be a purchaser. And what we saw, if you really had to define it, was a lack of supply of homes for sale. And at any given moment in time, you could look at in a neighborhood and say, how many homes are currently for sale and how many homes are currently under contract? And there were always more homes under contract than there were for sale.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, every time a home came on the market, multiple buyers were jumping on it. You saw these bidding wars of price appreciation. That's changed. Now, when you go look at the same statistics, how many homes are for sale, how many are under contract, almost across the board, you're seeing more homes for sale than there are under contract. And that's normal, by the way. I mean, that's how it should be. What we saw the last 2 years was not typical.
So the same kind of hot neighborhoods remain the hot neighborhoods, really.
So a lot of times you have to think of it as turning a dial, like hot became hotter for everybody for the last 2 years. And then, cooling off is cooling off for everybody. I mean, you still see certain areas that are where in certain price points even where it still feels really tight for buyers out there looking. They're like, well, there's not enough homes where I'm looking in this particular price range. And that's true because pocket by pocket, you may see some areas that are just hotter than others. But if you look at it on just a big macro level, it's a cooling off.
Ron Sitrin, realtor for Long & Foster, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a little perspective on this.
Thank you.
So before we go, USA Today is ranking football stadiums, apparently.
All 30 of them.
All 30. And apparently, maybe not surprisingly, FedEx Field has received the worst of the worst rating.
It's dead last.
It's number 30. And it was just basically, it seems like a survey of the people who work for the sports section of USA Today. But the little thing is funny. It says, look, there's no way around this. FedEx Field is awful. It's literally falling apart. And you said you had a horrible experience there.
Yeah, I had a horrible experience, but it wasn't when I was going to a Commanders game. I was actually going to a Argentina versus USA soccer game.
Oh, cool.
And I went to the game. The game was good, but it took me, kid you not, 2.5 hours to get out of the parking lot.
I'm not
I was
surprised
just
by that.
sitting in my car, and one of my favorite CDs is the Shrek soundtrack. You might know it. And
I'm
I
a
played
believer.
Exactly. I played through that CD at least 3 times. And so the third time I'm a Believer came on, I was like, I am not a believer. I am not a believer in FedEx Field.
Apparently, Lambeau Field of the Packers, of course, got the number 1 spot for its old school experience, rising from the suburban grid of Green Bay to welcome NFL pilgrims to its hallowed grounds. I think my favorite is Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis because it has this really cool, I know a lot of the new ones do, but it has this cool roof that they can take off like a convertible if it's really nice outside. And if it starts raining or it's bad weather, which happens in football around
That's
football
true.
season, it's a lovely experience for fans. You're not as freezing or wet as you would be at other stadiums.
Climate controlled football.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's all we want in this world.
Wow.
It's almost football season, Luke.
Here we go. I'm psyched. I'm not a huge football fan, I'll say it. I don't know if you could tell by my soccer FedEx experience or that response right there.
I'm a huge football fan. I'm hoping the Commanders are,
Well, I'm excited
show
for
some
you.
life. Thank you. And that'll do it for us today on the DMV Download. I'm excited. We're sponsored by Steamfitters Local 602. Our managing editor is Craig Schwab, and our music is by Real Worlds.
Give us a review and rate this show if you get the chance. Also, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. You can follow us on social media where we post content every day. You can find out more about this podcast and become one of our VIP listeners at dmvdownload.com.
As you know, the DMV Download is a product of WTOP News. Listen on 103.5 FM in the D.C. area, 107.7 FM in Virginia, 103.9 FM in Frederick, Maryland, online at WTOP.com and on the WTOP News app. Have a good night.